There are very few things that everyone on Earth can agree on. War is not ideal. Baths? Kind of a necessity. And the Pikmin 4 credits music is so pretty. It's really a beautiful piece, and it's beautiful in a very particular way. It's not going for that lush, Disney-esque orchestral sound like so many other pieces, and it doesn't feel like it's trying to play with your heartstrings with a sentimental melody. Instead, the credits theme radiates peacefulness, creating a gentle musical river for you to float along and then punctuating that tranquility with moments of striking beauty. The piece is designed to do this on every level. On the micro level, the individual chords used are mostly soft and gentle, with some gorgeous, colorful chords used at key moments. At the mid-range level, the melody maintains a pleasant atmosphere with uncontroversial note choices for most phrases, but then picks its moments to create drama with large leaps and emphasized, colorful non-chord tones. On the macro level, the structure of the whole piece is based around repeating musical ideas to keep the music familiar and cozy, but with just enough surprises to keep you interested all the way through until the piece's satisfying conclusion. First, let's dive down to the micro level and pick apart the individual chords used throughout the piece. This solo harp figure at the beginning expertly sets up the tranquil atmosphere. The reason why this sounds so peaceful, besides the beautiful sound of the harp, is that it's trading between the 1 and 4 chords of the key, E-flat and A-flat in the key of E-flat major. Each bar starts with a held E-flat bass note and then moves between different inversions of G minor and A-flat major triads on beats 2 and 3. The G minor triads combine with the E-flat bass note to make an E-flat major 7 chord, a prettier version of our home E-flat chord. I go into this in more depth in my video on the Ionian mode, but moving between the 1 and 4 chords sounds relaxing and calm, and there's a warmth to it too. You can hear that in the classic church cadence. Keeping the root note E-flat in the bass underneath these 4 chords creates the effect of just the subtlest of movement, a gentle rocking back and forth in the breeze, and it feels so comforting. There is lots of the 1 to 4 chord motion used throughout the piece to maintain the right atmosphere. A variation on this opening figure partway through the tune sees trading F major 7 and B flat over F chords, the 1 and 4 chords in the current key of F major. Check out how the second half tucks the 9th of the F and major 7th of the B flat at the bottom of these voicings. They sound just gorgeous. It's the perfect foundation. The melody sounds beautiful over top, but really it's the harp accompaniment doing most of the work in that regard. Even when the piece picks up in intensity, the music uses trading 1 and 4 chords to keep a gentleness in the piece. This middle section features a fuller, busier string section and much louder dynamic than the rest of the piece, but it pairs these elements up with trading A-flat and E-flat chords, back to a 4-to-1 cadence in the key of E-flat major. These chords are both voiced as major 7th chords, adding another dimension to the harmony. It's not just peaceful, it's pretty too. Now that we've established the right calm atmosphere, the main harmonic technique that this piece uses to add beauty to the music is building a major triad off of the 5th of a chord. This is actually the very first sound we hear in the piece. If we return to our opening harp figure, we'll see the first triad is a B-flat major sitting on top of our E-flat bass note. B-flat is the 5th of the key of E-flat, and building a major chord off of this 5th, a B-flat major triad over top of E-flat, gives us the notes B-flat, D, and F, which are the 5th, major 7th, and 9th of E-flat. The major 7th and 9th of any major chord are the guaranteed pretty notes, and using both at once is a lovely sound. But another characteristic of this kind of chord is the lack of the major 3rd. Your normal major 9 chord with the 3rd and 7th and 9th sounds pretty, absolutely, but ditching the 3rd for this B flat over E flat sound has a bolder, more direct sound that feels very modern, and maybe a little less sentimental. This chord is one of the core harmonic ideas of the Pikmin 4 credits theme, and it pops up all over the place. Check out this bridge section where we leave our relaxing E flat major atmosphere for a wandering progression that cycles through 2-5-1 cadences in different keys. Leading into the bridge, the melody resolves on the tonic E flat and then builds up these different inversions of a B flat triad over top of that E flat chord, crescendoing into the bridge. The bridge gives us one phrase in E major, and then the following phrase moves to G major, with the A minor 7 to D7 setup resolving to a gorgeous D over G chord. You'll notice the harmony is pretty soft and straightforward. There's not a lot of dissonance, and most chords are not as colorful as these major 9 triad built off the 5th chords. That's what makes the beauty of these chords so striking. They stand out compared to the chords around them. The main sections of the piece use this same approach, picking their moments to introduce a colorful minor 4 chord to stand out against the soft harmony that makes up the bulk of the music. If we take this 16-bar melody that comes after our harp intro we looked at earlier, we see a very standard set of chords used in the key of E flat. Our repeating E flat to A flat over an E flat bass note continues on through the first phrase, then after that we see G minor 7, C minor 7, and A flat major 7 chords, with a C minor over F chord that stretches out over the final phrase before landing on a B flat. All nice functional chords in the key of E flat, nothing remotely dissonant. Actually, adding the 7th to all of these chords not only makes them sound prettier, it also means that there are more notes in common than there would otherwise be between each chord in the progression. This G minor to C minor move would sound a lot darker and more dramatic without the 7ths added, but keeping that B flat note in the C minor chord when it was already in the G minor before it reduces the amount of motion we feel between the chords, and the whole thing feels a lot softer. This all makes the one non-diatonic chord in the section, this A flat minor 6 chord, stand out all the more. This is the minor 4 chord in the key of E flat, a classic, beautiful chord that every songwriter or composer should know about. Oftentimes, as we see in our credits theme here, the minor 4 chord will be voiced as a minor 6 chord, like this A flat minor 6, with the raised 6th F natural and flat 3 C flat, creating a tritone interval between them for added severity. This tension turns into a beautiful resolution when the chord resolves, typically to the 1 chord, but in this case down to the 3 chord G minor to continue the progression. This final F half diminished chord is the same move, just inverted. The notes of an A flat minor 6 chord are the exact same as what we find in an F half diminished chord, and the latter is slipped in for just one beat to create a stronger resolution to this final B flat. These two chords introduce a lot more dissonance than we've heard anywhere else in the credits theme. Even this final 5 chord of the section, this B flat, is the only chord in the section without a 7th added to it, because the dominant 7th would introduce more dissonance and motion than we want in such a peaceful piece of music. This allows for these minor 4 chords to stand out as big moments within the progression, and the way these chords resolve in both cases is absolutely gorgeous. If we zoom out to a mid-range phrase-by-phrase level, we see that the credits theme uses the same approach with its melody, picking its moments to stand out from the baseline level of tranquility. This high piano melody we heard is cute, but very reserved. It stays inside the harmony for almost the entire section, picking moments to create just enough motion to keep the melody from feeling stagnant, and always with clear resolutions back to home base. Over top of such pretty harmony, this ends up sounding really nice. We're not rocking the boat here, we're just enjoying the ride. But further into the piece, the second time through the melody, we get a great dramatic moment as the melody veers upward where it went down the first time around, soaring up to this high D note over top of our C minor chord. The harmony changes from the first time around too, moving from C minor to a C7 chord here, which pushes us towards the following F minor. The way the music slows down for this phrase really accentuates the color of this melody note and the surprise secondary dominant C7 chord, and with how few out-of-key chords and non-chord tone melody notes we've used up until this point, this bar stands out as a big moment. And it totally works as a big moment. If there are three things that make a melody feel dramatic, they're giant leaps, using the high register, and hitting non-chord tones really strong, and this phrase has all three. There are lots of points throughout the credits sequence that build up to a dramatic moment like this, usually at the same part of the section right before the final phrase brings us back down to earth. Deeper into the piece, this bigger A-flat to E-flat section we heard earlier is busier and louder, but still quite consonant and straightforward melodically. We're mostly walking around the E-flat major scale, touching on a 7th or a 9th here and there for color, and we settle into this vibe pretty quickly. That is, until we get this great build-up from a C minor chord, with the bass descending in half steps leading up to this giant dissonant A half diminished chord. The melody once again leaps up to a high D over top, the fourth of the chord, that resolves down to the third, and the music pauses on this chord to milk it for all of its dramatic potential. All of this dissonance and energy that builds up gets released in the following bars with that stunning E-flat over A-flat chord in the strings, another example of this tune's favorite major 9 chord voicing. And closing off this moment with a resolution as satisfying as the build-up was dramatic is one of the key moments that sells the whole phrase as being beautiful. This is why this piece has such a reputation for being pretty. It knows exactly how to tell a story, how to take its time building up to a high point, and then how to bring you back down gently into a calm atmosphere again. It's such a conscientious piece, so aware of how the audience is going to perceive every move it makes, and it uses that to take you on such a lovely journey. The story this music is telling is a long one too, much longer than most video game music, as it has to cover 6 minutes of scrolling credits. And if we zoom out to a macro level view of the entire arrangement, we see that the piece uses the same approach that it does at a chord by chord and phrase by phrase level. It picks its moments. The piece is broken up into sections that are all about 16 bars long, made up of 4 4-bar phrases that establish a mood, build it up to a high point, and then conclude in a satisfying way. Notice how the main melody starts and ends with the same motif in the first and fourth phrases, building a callback moment right into the main section of melody that gives a listener a comforting sense of familiarity. This 16-bar unit is great, and the job of the larger form of the piece is to figure out how to present it to the listener for 6 minutes in an interesting way. Introducing anything new in a piece takes a mental toll on the listener, but not introducing enough new material can make the listener bored very quickly. So writing something that's calm and nice, but not dull or too predictable can be very challenging. The credits theme roadmap is this. We get our 4-bar harp figure that establishes a peaceful atmosphere, then a section of melody played by high piano and harp accompaniment. The same intro figure is then played in the piano to set up the section we just heard. Another run through a section of melody, but with fleshed out orchestration and an added, surprising dramatic moment thrown in before the last phrase. This leads into our B section, the series of wandering 2-5-1s that we heard earlier, stripped down to accordion and harp for a change of color. This ends with our first of many transitions that trail off, deliberately avoiding giving a satisfying conclusion, and instead wandering outside of the key as the momentum slows to a halt. Most video game music is made up of a main A section that repeats, and then a B section that contrasts the rest of the music, so at this point in the credits theme, the listener is probably prepared for the music to wrap it up. From here on out, to avoid the feeling that the music is continuing on past where it should have ended, the piece deliberately avoids any section ending conclusively, and each transition trails off in a meandering way. This following bit sees the main A section melody repeated in the key of F with some slight variations in the middle parts of the form, surprising the listener in subtle but charming ways. As we roll into the end of the melody though, the last phrase is cut short by this move from an F over B flat chord to an out of key D flat major 7 chord. This catches your ear and makes you wonder where the piece is going next, which the piece answers with an extended transition of wandering pizzicato strings, glockenspiel, and piano that roll through different keys until ending up walking up this strange whole tone scale line. It's worth pointing out that none of the vocabulary used in these transitions is dissonant or jarring. All of the chords are nice major 7th chords, and the melodies are all walking up and down scales. But when the main sections of melody stay so securely inside of a key, shifting to other keys so suddenly feels very strange. We get the sense that the music is taking us somewhere that we're not sure we're supposed to be. This leads into the big A-flat to E-flat section we covered earlier, whose melody is based off of one of the interior phrases of the A section melody, which leads up to that big A half-diminished moment. After this, the piano brings back the introductory phrase from the very beginning of the piece, giving a wave of relief and familiarity and the feeling that we're on our way back home. This leads into one last double run-through of the A section, once through normally and once through with added dramatic moments, just like we had at the beginning of the piece, but this time a more fleshed-out orchestration makes it feel like a climactic and triumphant return. The final phrase of melody is once again cut off, moving suddenly again to the flat 6 chord of the key, this time voiced in the piece's favorite major 9 voicing as a G-flat over C-flat chord. At this point, it feels like the piece is trying to stretch out the resolution as long as it can get away with. We move into quiet, high-string pads as this cello melody comes in underneath, and the glockenspiel brings in a reference to the main Pikmin theme to really hammer home that this is the end of the game. Then the music comes down to a whisper as the strings finally give us one last resolution to the tonic E-flat chord, voiced beautifully with a 10th interval between the root and third. absolutely gorgeous. It's not that this was a very dissonant piece requiring resolution, it's just that it so expertly crafts this journey, pulling you through the dramatic moments and surprising turns so masterfully that you didn't even realize how badly you were craving this resolution until you got it. It's satisfying, it's beautiful, and it's a perfect way to end a game. So I think there are three main ideas we can learn from this piece. First, niceness can be dull. For music to be beautiful, it needs to have moments of drama too, even if the main goal of the piece is to be calm. 2, the best composers figure out how to accomplish the goals of their piece at every level of analysis simultaneously. From the molecular note-by-note choices to the arc of each phrase to the big picture form of the piece. C, you can do a lot with a little if you pick your moments wisely. Thanks so much to patron Blast Hard Cheese for requesting this piece. If you want to join Mr. Hard Cheese in supporting what I do here, please sign up to my Patreon. I would not be able to keep making these if I had to rely on YouTube ad revenue, and I generally don't take sponsorships because I don't need to thanks to my extremely generous and intelligent and handsome patrons. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.